everyone, and welcome to our channel with Alex and Mia. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into a place that has touched all our lives in one way or another, the bank. Banks may look like ordinary institutions filled with counters, forms, and cash, but they're much more than that. They're places of trust, responsibility, and milestones. From a child's first passbook to an adult's first loan, banks are part of our life journeys. And with me, as always, is my co-host and good friend Mia. Hey Mia, how are you feeling about today's topic?
Hey Alex, I'm excited about this one. Because banks are so deeply woven into everyone's lives, everyone has a memory, a story, or even a lesson connected to them. Maybe it's waiting for hours in line, maybe it's watching your parents deposit savings, or maybe it's getting your first paycheck deposited. Banks aren't just financial spaces. They're emotional spaces too.
Exactly, and that's why today's conversation is going to be special. We'll travel through our first memories, explore how savings culture shaped families, and see how banks evolved over time.
I still remember being a kid and going with my parents to the bank. I must have been around 10. The first thing that struck me was the atmosphere. Serious, quiet, and disciplined. My parents told me to sit still because banks are important places. I remember watching the staff behind the counters. They wore formal clothes, spoke in low voices, and stamped documents with this heavy, echoing sound. The clicking of keyboards, the shuffle of papers, the hum of the air conditioner. It all felt like part of a ritual. And then there was the passbook. That little book with your name and account number on it. Every time the officer updated it, I felt like something official and important had happened.
Yes, I can relate. My first memory was when my dad took me along to deposit money. I was probably 9. What stood out to me was the smell. A mix of paper, ink, and that faint metallic scent of coins. I also remember being fascinated by the cash counting machine. Watching bundles of notes being swallowed and neatly spat out was mesmerizing. To a child, it felt like magic. But more than anything, I sensed the seriousness of the space. No one laughed loudly, no one wasted time. Banks had an aura of respect.
Exactly. And that aura stayed with us as we grew up. Even now, whenever I walk into a bank branch, I automatically lower my voice. It's almost like entering a library, except instead of knowledge, it holds trust and responsibility.
Another thing that's universal about banks, the waiting. Waiting is almost a rite of passage in banking.
Yes! Whether you're standing in a queue with a token in hand or sitting in a waiting area, everyone's clutching documents, rehearsing what they'll say at the counter. It's not just boredom, it's anticipation.
Exactly. And when you look around while waiting, you see people from all walks of life. Students opening accounts, pensioners updating passbooks, business owners depositing cash, families applying for loans. Banks bring everyone together under one roof.
And you can almost guess why people are there. The anxious ones waiting for a loan approval. The relaxed ones just updating their details. The busy ones on their phones trying to multitask. It's like a snapshot of society.
Now, Mia, let's talk about something that really defined banking for generations, the savings culture. And at the heart of that were fixed deposits and recurring deposits.
Oh, yes. My grandparents swore by fixed deposits. For them, putting money into an FD was the ultimate form of security. You locked it in for years, got a fixed interest, and felt proud knowing your future was taken care of.
Same with my parents. A fixed deposit wasn't just money, it was a plan. Parents would proudly say, "This FD is for your education," or "This one is for your wedding." It represented love, foresight, and discipline.
And then there were recurring deposits, RDS. Those were especially popular among middle-class families. Small monthly deposits that grew into something meaningful. I've seen families save for festivals, school fees, or even medical funds through RDS.
Yes, and the passbook culture was tied to this. People would regularly update their passbooks, and each printed line was like a badge of discipline. I remember my father showing me his passbook proudly saying, "Look, the money is growing."
Exactly. For an older generation, these weren't just numbers, they were milestones. Saving wasn't about getting rich, it was about being secure. And banks gave them that sense of stability.
And even today, despite all the new investment options, FDs and RDs still carry weight. They're seen as safe, dependable, and trustworthy.
Alex, when I think about it, savings culture really shaped families. It wasn't just financial discipline, it was a mindset. You planned, you prepared, you looked ahead. Banks weren't just institutions, they were guardians of those plans.
Yes, and I think that culture, while evolving, still influences us. Even with mutual funds, SIPs, and credit cards, deep down, we still look for that sense of security that our parents and grandparents valued. Mia, after talking about fixed deposits and recurring deposits, I think we should move to one of the biggest shifts in modern banking. The rise of credit cards.
Oh, yes. Credit cards completely changed the way people experienced banking. I still remember the day I got my first one. The envelope came in the mail, shiny and official, and I thought, wow, the bank trusts me. It felt like a badge of adulthood.
Same here. My first card gave me this sense of independence. Just a swipe, and you could buy something instantly, without worrying about cash in your wallet. But of course, that feeling doesn't last forever.
Exactly. At first, I was swiping for coffee, clothes, little things. It felt harmless, but then the bill arrived. I remember staring at it, shocked. I hadn't realized how quickly those little swipes added up.
That's the trap, isn't it? Credit cards feel like free money, but they're really borrowed money. And if you don't pay on time, the bank makes its money from you through interest.
Yes, and that minimum due option? That's how people fall into debt cycles. Paying the minimum feels easy, but the balance keeps growing with interest. I know a friend who fell into that trap. He thought he was managing, but within months his debt ballooned.
I've seen that too. Credit cards are like a test of discipline. If you're careful, they're a powerful tool. If not, they can overwhelm you.
And banks market them so well. Cashback, air miles, reward points. Those perks are real, but only if you're disciplined.
Right. I've actually benefited from cards. free flight tickets from reward miles, extended warranties on gadgets. But I'm strict about paying the full bill every month.
Same here. The lesson I learned is simple. Treat credit cards like a tool, not as extra income. They extend your convenience, not your salary.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Our grandparents focused on saving. Our parents balanced saving and borrowing. Home loans, education loans, and our generation. We're more comfortable with both credit and investment.
Yes, it shows how banking evolved with society. Earlier, banks symbolized security. Now they also symbolize opportunity. Spend now, invest now, grow faster.
Yeah.
Speaking of growth, another big change is how banks became investment hubs. I remember when my relationship manager suggested a systematic investment plan, a SIP. I thought, wait, aren't you supposed to just keep my money safe? Why are you talking about markets?
Ha! I felt the same the first time. But then I realized banks had expanded their role. They're no longer just custodians of money. They're financial supermarkets, offering mutual funds, insurance, demat accounts, even gold schemes.
Yes! And for many people, banks are the most trusted entry point into investing. Instead of approaching brokers or online platforms, they feel safer investing through their bank.
That trust is powerful, but it also comes with responsibility. If a banker suggests a mutual fund, most customers will listen. But the question is, are they recommending what's best for the customer or what meets their sales target?
That's such an important point. Because mutual funds aren't fixed deposits, they carry risk, and yet customers often think, if the bank is selling it, it must be safe.
Exactly. Same with insurance. People buy policies from banks assuming they're the best option, without always comparing. Banks cross-sell insurance aggressively, and customers rarely push back.
Which is why financial literacy matters. Banks can be great entry points for investments, but customers need to understand what they're signing up for.
Yes, a SIP is not the same as an RD. A ULIP is not the same as a fixed deposit. These distinctions need to be clear.
Alex, when I look at it, there's a pattern. With fixed deposits, discipline meant locking money for years. With credit cards, discipline means resisting overspending. With investments, discipline means consistency, putting money in regularly and not panicking when markets fluctuate.
Beautifully put. Discipline is the constant. The tools change, but the principle remains the same.
And that's why banks are so central. They don't just provide services, they provide frameworks for discipline. Whether it's saving, borrowing, or investing, the bank structures your financial life.
Yes, banks don't just hold money, they shape behavior.
Yeah.
Mia, we looked at how banks evolved from savings to credit cards to investments. But here's something interesting. That entire experience of banking doesn't look the same everywhere. Rural banking and urban banking are almost like two different worlds.
Yo, absolutely. In big cities, people hardly even visit branches anymore. They do everything on mobile apps. Fund transfers, bill payments, even opening new accounts. But in rural areas, the physical branch is still the heart of the community.
Yes, I remember visiting a rural branch during a trip. The entire place had a different feel. People knew each other. They greeted the bank staff like neighbors. It wasn't just about transactions. It was about relationships.
That's so true. In rural branches, customers often go to the same counter officer for years. They build trust over time. The officer knows their family, their land, their children. It feels personal.
And the services reflect that. Farmers applying for crop loans, pensioners withdrawing their allowances, small shopkeepers depositing daily earnings. The bank becomes part of everyday survival.
Exactly. Whereas in urban areas, banks feel fast and efficient, but sometimes impersonal. You're just another customer in a long line, or just an account number in the system.
Yes, in cities you may not even know who your relationship manager is. You just deal with whoever is available. In villages, the manager might even visit your home if needed.
It shows that banks aren't one size fits all. They adapt to the community.
That's what makes me think. Banks don't just handle money, they hold people's stories. I've seen this firsthand. Once I saw a father deposit money every month into a recurring deposit. When asked why, he said, "This is for my daughter's wedding." It wasn't just a deposit. It was years of love and planning condensed into one habit.
That's beautiful. I've seen similar moments too. A young student walking in with his parents to deposit his first scholarship money. The pride on their faces was unforgettable. For them, that account represented opportunity and a brighter future.
Yes, or even retirees. I once saw an elderly man update his passbook, and he smiled every time he saw the small interest credited. For him, that wasn't just numbers. It was reassurance that the bank was watching over his hard-earned savings.
And think of emergencies. A family rushing to withdraw savings for a medical expense. In that moment, the bank is not just a financial place. It's their lifeline.
Exactly, or a couple applying for a home loan together. You can see the mix of excitement and anxiety on their faces. They're tying their dream house to the trust they place in the bank.
That's why I believe banks are as emotional as they are financial. They carry people's milestones, weddings, education, retirement, even survival during tough times.
And in today's world, banking isn't just local. It's international. Millions of people work abroad and send money back home every month.
Yes, remittances are such an important part of banking. For many families, that monthly transfer is survival. Paying school fees, household expenses, medical bills. The bank becomes the bridge connecting families across continents.
I know a friend who works in the Middle East. Every month, he wires money to his parents here. He told me that moment, clicking send on the app feels emotional. It's not just money, it's love, responsibility, and connection.
Exactly. And on the other side, the family waits for that deposit. They plan their budget around it. They know exactly when the money will arrive, and when it does, it's a moment of relief.
That's the thing. International transfers carry trust on a global scale. You're trusting that money will travel thousands of kilometers across borders and currencies and still arrive safely in your account.
Yes, and banks handle that trust. Behind the scenes, there are networks, systems, checks, but for the customer, all that matters is, did the money reach home?
And then there's travel banking, using your card abroad, withdrawing foreign currency, dealing with exchange rates. Banks make all of that possible, turning the world into a smaller place.
Yes, even something as simple as a prepaid travel card gives peace of mind. You don't have to carry wads of cash. The bank takes care of safety and conversion.
So whether it's a worker sending money home or a traveler exploring a new country, banks are the silent partners making it happen.
When I think about it, Alex, rural branches, urban apps, emotional deposits, global remittances, they all show one thing. Banks are not just about numbers. They're about people.
Exactly. Each account, each transaction carries a story, and the bank, in its quiet way, becomes part of that story.
That's what makes this topic so meaningful. Banks may look formal with counters and forms, but beneath the surface, they're full of human dreams.
Mia, so far we've talked about banks from the customer's side. Savings, credit, investments, emotional moments, even international transfers. But we can't ignore the people on the other side of the counter, the bankers themselves.
Yes, Alex. We often forget that bankers are human too. They carry enormous responsibilities. Imagine sitting for 8 hours a day handling other people's money, answering endless queries, following strict regulations, and still being expected to smile.
Exactly. I once had a conversation with a branch manager. He said, "Our work is more than transactions. We're problem solvers, counselors, and sometimes even shoulders to cry on." That really struck me.
And the pressure is intense. Bankers have to balance empathy with strict rules. A customer may be upset or desperate, but the banker can't just bend policy. They have to follow compliance, audits, and deadlines.
Yes, and on top of that, many banks set sales targets, credit cards, insurance policies, investment products. So bankers are juggling two roles, serving customers and meeting targets.
That must be stressful. We see bankers as calm professionals, but behind the desk, there's real pressure.
It reminds us that banks are human institutions. Their efficiency comes from people working tirelessly, often under stress.
Alex, this makes me think about how different generations experience banking.
Oh yes, for our grandparents, banking was sacred. They believed in saving, in updating passbooks, in locking money in fixed deposits. Trust was absolute.
Exactly. For our parents, banks became partners. They took loans for homes, cars, children's education. Banks weren't just guardians of savings, they enabled progress.
And for us, banks are about convenience and choice. We want speed, apps, instant transfers. We're comfortable with credit cards, mutual funds, and digital wallets.
And the next generation? Kids growing up now may never set foot in a branch. Their bank might just be a phone app with AI advisors. For them, money is digital from day one.
That's a huge shift. It shows how banks evolve alongside society. Each generation redefines what banking means.
And across the world, banking reflects culture too. In some societies, borrowing is normal. People use loans and credit cards freely. In others, saving is seen as a moral duty.
Yes, in many Asian cultures, saving is celebrated. Children are taught to deposit every small coin. In parts of the West, smart borrowing is considered maturity, building credit scores, leveraging loans for growth.
Banks adapt to these cultural attitudes. They design products that fit people's values.
Which proves that banks are not just financial institutions, they're mirrors of the societies they serve.
Alex, one thing I wish banks did more of is financial education. Most people learn money lessons the hard way, through mistakes.
I agree. Imagine if every new account came with a simple orientation, teaching people how to save, how to avoid credit traps, how to invest safely. That could change lives.
Yes! Banks could hold workshops, create learning tools, or even build financial education into their apps. It would benefit both customers and banks.
Because a financially literate customer makes better decisions, which reduces defaults and builds stronger relationships. It's a win-win.
Exactly. Banks could be not just service providers, but teachers of financial wisdom.
Looking ahead, Mia, what do you think the future of banking looks like?
I think technology will transform everything. We already have AI-driven chatbots, biometric logins, and mobile banking. Soon, ATMs might recognize us with face scans. Maybe voice commands will replace PINs.
Yes, and cashless societies are becoming real. In some places, QR codes and mobile wallets have almost replaced physical cash. The future could be fully digital.
That sounds efficient, but it also raises questions about inclusion. Not everyone is tech-savvy. Older generations, rural communities, they still need human touchpoints.
Exactly. That's why I think the future will be hybrid. Digital convenience for most tasks, but branches for trust, empathy, and complex needs.
And no matter how advanced technology gets, people will still need reassurance. Sometimes what you need at a bank isn't a transaction. It's a human voice saying, "Don't worry, we'll help you."
Well said. Banks of the future must blend speed with empathy, efficiency with accessibility.
So, if we look at the big picture, Alex, banks have been with us at every stage, from childhood savings to adult loans, from rural deposits to global transfers.
Yes, and through all of that, one thing holds everything together: trust. Without trust, banks can't function. With trust, they become anchors of stability.
For me, banks symbolize growth. Each account, each deposit, each loan is a step forward for individuals, families, and societies.
And for me, banks symbolize stability. They are the foundations that keep financial life steady even in uncertain times.
Yes, Alex.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. We've explored banks from every angle: memories, savings, credit, investments, rural branches, emotional stories, global transfers, the lives of bankers, generational shifts, and even the future of AI-driven banking.
Banks may look like serious institutions filled with counters and forms, but they're really about people. They hold our dreams, our struggles, and our progress.
So the next time you open your banking app or walk into a branch, remember, it's not just a transaction. It's part of your life story, your discipline, and your hope for the future.
Exactly. Banks are not just where money lives, they're where our lives touch the world of finance.
On that note, this is Alex.
And Mia.
Signing off from these conversations. Take care of yourselves and your finances.
See you in next episode, everyone.